Welcome to South St. Paul City Hall and the July 22nd, 2019 meeting of the South St. Paul Board of Education. Wendy, will you call the roll?
Inspector Diaz?
Here.
Inspector McClellan?
Here.
Inspector Walker?
Here.
Inspector Arend?
Here.
Inspector Lalaberty?
Here.
Inspector Felton is present. Inspector Bjorklund is absent this evening. 6 members.
Thank you. Please join us with in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, thank you, and again, good evening. Tonight we're going to start off with the approval of the meeting agenda and minutes from previous meetings, and that includes 4 items. The school board meeting agenda for tonight, July 22nd, 2019, the committee of the whole meeting minutes from June 24th, 2019, the regular board meeting minutes from June 24th, 2019, and the finance committee meeting minutes from April 15th, May 20th, and June 3rd of 2019. Do I have a motion for their approval?
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Then the motion passes and the agenda and minutes are approved. And then next we'll move to our quality in action for the evening.
So we have a number of reports tonight for you this evening, and Connie Garling-Squire is going to lead us off with our work on our anti-bullying task force here in South St. Paul schools. Connie?
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. So we are in the middle of some really good work here in South St. Paul, and I just wanted to highlight some of our work with regard to anti-bullying and harassment work that we are charged to do. It is related directly to policy, so there's some administrative work that we need to both complete and be public about and share the improvements that we're making in our process. And so tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about those things. First of all, as you know, the South St. Paul Public Schools are an International Baccalaureate School District. And everything that I'm going to talk about tonight is simply part of the fabric of who we are and what we do as an International Baccalaureate school. We also are working on our systems of support, both what we teach in our everyday classrooms, the core of what we teach, and how we intervene or how we enhance that teaching for kids that might need something more, a replacement of behaviors perhaps, and then how we refine for kids that really struggle. And we're spending some time really going deep with regard to social and emotional learning in this district. And I just want to tie together how all of those programmatic efforts really just underpin the specific work of the policy with regard to anti-bullying and the other policy with regard to harassment. I'm going to talk about the work we are doing with student learning, professional development, and how we are going to better communicate with our community. So just in quick review, International Baccalaureate is grounded in the same kinds of theory and process that any anti-bullying program is grounded in. So if you look at the IB mission, you see words like caring young people and creating a better and more peaceful world. When you look at that learner profile, those elements that we want our kids to leave our schools with, you see things like being principled and open-minded, reflective and caring people. You have to have those kinds of qualities in order to both stop and reteach what bullying efforts might be. In approaches to learning with regard to International Baccalaureate, we spend a lot of time helping kids develop their social skills and self-management skills, both to manage their emotions and to delay gratification or to work through something that's difficult. And so International Baccalaureate is a lovely fabric for the background of some of the bullying work that we must do. The other layer that I wanted to talk about is the difference between what our teachers teach in core. So our core instruction is about every classroom that every child has access to. Sometimes what is taught in that class is absorbed by most of the kids in that class, but sometimes the lessons that we teach, the skills that we practice, need a little extra boost for some of our kids. And so that's what that tiered levels of support might be. Some of our kids really don't have a lot of social interaction problems. They're friendly, helpful children that find school to be a place where they can succeed easily. Some of our kids struggle with their behaviors because of things that might come with them into school. Some of our kids struggle with behaviors because of what they meet in school. Some of our kids struggle with behaviors because of what happens in classrooms. And so those tiered levels of support are the kinds of things that we want to articulate in place so that both families and our students and our staff know what is expected when it's time to reteach. Then, the social and emotional learning that we do as part of that tiered effort, right? Part of the tier is part of the work is academic, and part of the work is social and emotional. Well, all of the social and emotional work is related to those basic emotional abilities that we want our kids to be able to fully engage in with regard to interacting with each other, so that learning is accessible to them. So you'll also see words that I've highlighted there about emotions and self-confidence, about being able to take someone else's point of view or feeling empathy, about analyzing and solving problems, about being able to control impulses, or what to do when you feel stressed. So all of these things are elements that we teach in every classroom, that we practice in every classroom. And then sometimes we need some extra support. So the work that we're doing this summer is work with regard specifically to policy to make sure that we are dotting every I and crossing every T of what is expected of us as administrators, as teachers, and as staff in the school district. So part of what we're doing is we're updating instructional materials that will be used with every student in our schools. There are amazing materials now available at kids' developmental levels with regard to solving these kinds of problems, practicing those behaviors. And so we're going to match that curriculum with developmental abilities of our kids and be articulate about what it is that we're doing in classrooms. We're going to offer tiered support as needed so that kids can practice new skills if necessary, can restore relationships when it's time to do that. And then instead of leaving each of those efforts up to a particular teacher or even a building, we're going to focus more on whole district efforts with regard to things like October being anti-bullying month, to really bring it forward as a campaign that is important throughout the entire community. Another part of what we're focusing on developing this summer to articulate is the professional development that is required for all of our staff. So remember, when I talk about staff, it's not just teachers. That's about half of the people that we employ in South St. Paul, but everyone that works in our buildings, from our clerical in our offices to our nurses to our assistants in the classrooms, lunchroom supervisors to the bus drivers that bring our kids safely to school. Every person in our school district is required to have some kind of professional development with regard to preventing, stopping, referring, and then working with kids to solve some of the problems that are related to bullying. One of the disconnects sometimes happens when teachers don't feel like they have control or don't feel like they have solutions that they can employ when it's time to interact with kids. And so we're going to do a better job of making sure that teachers understand what administrative roles are, making sure that administrators follow through and communicate well about what they have done and are doing with our families, so that families understand both what to do as perhaps a victim, a person who has been bullied, and what we're doing to reteach, to stop the behaviors and reteach better behaviors for our kids who might be more of the aggressors. Our hope, our intention, the reason that we have policy to follow is that we want our kids to feel safe in the classrooms. We want our staff to have tools to use in those classrooms and in our hallways and in our lunchrooms and on the playground to make sure that we stop behaviors that are getting in the way of people feeling safe, and that we have pathways to use to help solve those problems and teach new skills. The other part that we're going to do a better job in is with our communication out to our parents and with our students. We are making changes to our parent-student handbooks so that our processes are better articulated. We want to make it easier for people to understand, to be able to report, and to be able to find resources if they feel like they have been bullied or if they know someone who is being bullied. We want to be able to offer very clear ways that people can be an advocate and an ally in those situations as well. So this is ongoing work. By the beginning of the school year, we will have a full package ready. So this is just an update about some of the work that our administrative group is doing this summer with regard to specific policy here in South St. Paul.
Thank you.
Thanks, Connie. Any questions or comments?
Good work.
Yes, thank you very much, Connie.
So we'll continue to put safety first. We heard it loud and clear from our community last year. We're working hard this summer to retool our systems. We thought we'd just share that summer update tonight. Next up, we have Paul Brashear is going to highlight our Flex Learning Days, which will be new. You know that last year we ended up canceling school 7 times. And Paul's going to give you an update about what Flex Learning is all about.
Well, welcome, Paul. Thank you for coming in tonight.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to sharing this with you. Okay, so Dave was right. 7 days. We had school closed last year for emergency purposes, 6 of them weather-related, 1 safety concerns. And when you sit down and you calculate that, that's 4% of our available instructional time with students lost to us. And that's, we would never just voluntarily cut a week and a half off of our schedule and just say it's all done and good. So what this presented us with as a school district, these closings, was number one, some threat to our revenue from especially our higher grade levels where their schedules are in some cases a little shorter, say for our seniors, and where the hour requirements are higher than they are, say, for elementary students. And as we get to a certain point, we start to lose our average daily membership, which is what drives our revenue. But even more important, we were losing learning on those days, opportunities for students to learn in terms of time, and then continuity in learning as well. 2 or 3 days strung together of lost time means you're spending at least a day just getting back to square one before you move forward. So those were our concerns as we started moving into this project, and we did what we often do is convene what we call an innovation team of something north of 25 teachers and administrators to take a look at what was going on around the state and take a look at what some of the requirements were and opportunities were for us to turn that around, both in terms of protecting our funding, but also in terms of protecting our learning time with students. We brought the group together to both study state statute and also to look at what other plans did in the first year that this was available last year and what they were planning to do this year, this coming year, as they now had some guidance from MDE, the Department of Education, about how to implement this law. Our charge was to develop a plan for the South St. Paul School District that would both preserve funding and preserve learning time and continuity. That was our charge. And over several meetings, and the team broke up into 2 different groups because we very quickly realized that secondary and elementary are going to have very different looking plans. In the end, we came back together and put together a joint plan that handles both. And what will happen is on an emergency closing day, all of our students will essentially attend a flexible learning day. And secondary will do the bulk of their work online interactively, and we'll get into a little bit of detail about that. Elementary, for reasons, logistical reasons more than anything else, will work off of paper-based menus that are created and updated through the year that contain learning activities that are relevant to their current work. One of the key parameters that we had was that the work that was being done had to be relevant to the learning at hand. It had to be pretty close to what was being done in class. Otherwise, it wasn't just doing a bunch of activities you could do at home. It had to be related to what was happening. So in the secondary plan, just some of the salient details, what a student day would look like. Their assignments would be expected to be posted by teachers by 10 a.m. So teachers would have some time to put the emergency plan together on an emergency closing day. Many of them would have something ready to go already through some of the work that we've been doing with teachers in terms of blended learning, and they'd have some great opportunities to shift some of that into this model if needed. Students will spend their day participating in online discussions. They'll work on individual assignments. They'll be collaborating with teachers and with their classmates. And their teachers will be available to monitor student work and to answer questions. There's some tools that we're putting in our teachers' hands and students' hands, but our teachers' hands that allow them to do that monitoring effectively. They're going to be able to drop in on students doing assignments, see what their work is, maybe even pop a comment in the middle of it. You can imagine a student experiencing that. They think they're alone doing this work, and suddenly their teacher's right there with them in the document. And then there are other great tools, including forums and discussion areas that are in the tools that we're implementing this summer that will help teachers and students do this sort of work in regular class as well as on an e-learning or flex learning day. Our Community Learning Center has a bit of a different picture. They're not a one-to-one school district, so they don't have devices they take home with them. But what they do have is a system that really supports this sort of work remotely called Odysseyware. It's where most of their courseware is coming from right now for students in most of their classes. So what will happen there is advisory teachers will be directly communicating assignments to their students. They're going to reach out to their students and call them, literally. And the assignments will also be posted in the systems that we provide, Schoology, the learning management system that we're moving to, and once again, Odysseyware, the tool that they're using at CLC for much of their courseware. We'll talk a little bit more about device availability and internet connectivity towards the end of this presentation. Our elementary flexible day is fundamentally different than the secondary one, largely because those students don't have one-to-one devices, and then also we are not entirely sure about what the saturation of internet connectivity at home is like. And as you can imagine, what could happen if I have a family with 3 elementary kids and it's a flex learning day and each of those kids is expected to go online with the one family computer, quite a bit of competition would happen. So those are the things that we have to look for before we would start moving something like this to that level, online only. What they will have is essentially a student learning menu, and I'll show you an example or a quick sample of one in a moment, that has activities that are grade level specific, that were developed by grade level teams together and specialists, and they are related and tied to their current PYP, that's primary years program, IB units of inquiry. The activities will be completed by students offline and independently, so they have to be scaled so that students can do this work independently. One of the things we found when we talked to other districts was that many teachers in their planning really overshot what students were going to be able to do on their own and how much time it would take them to get through those activities. Teachers, again, will be available throughout the day to consult with their students, and then student learning menus will be sent home in backpacks and then also posted online, and they'll be updated through the year to keep them relevant to the current unit of inquiry that is being done in the elementary day. And when it comes to students without internet access, that is part of the concern here, and we are engaged in a number of different solutions right now. For our secondary students, once again, they all have one-to-one devices. Not all of them have internet access adequately at home. We've just signed on with the 1 Million Project, and that's a project that's focused on closing the homework gap for high school students, grade 9 through 12 specifically. And what they will do is provide us with access points that students can take with them home so that they have full internet access at home with their student devices that we provide them. It's a great program because what it does is it identifies kids early and it provides them a device for their entire high school career and then potentially follows them on to post-secondary. So we're excited about this. We just got on board with it and we're going to start working with the team, and we'll probably be distributing these access points sometime in September for students. We still have to work out some of the details on it, but we're excited to be a part of this grant. For the other grades, we're looking at some other opportunities that are out there. Both Verizon and T-Mobile have recently announced steeply discounted data plans in conjunction with free access points for students. So we're going to start to explore that as well, and that would help us ensure that throughout our 6 to 12 continuum, students have access at home to do their homework and to participate in e-learning days. When those days are coming, we can be looking at that further down the grade level too, a little bit later as we move on. The other point, and I thought I had it in a slide, but it seems to have disappeared on me, but it's just a quick word. What we're doing here is new for a lot of our students and new for our teachers too. Not the individual activities so much, because a lot of it extends in the work that we're doing with them already, but putting it all together into a cohesive day of learning for students is a different question. And for students, being in attendance and inattentive to this work throughout the day is going to be new for them. So we know that we have to do practice with that. We may schedule a practice day and come to you for that. We'd need your approval for that. A non-emergency practice day. But also what should be happening in classrooms is we're practicing the procedures of it. Maybe in school we do a quick practice of what it looks like multiple times through the year so that people are ready to go for it when we need it, when we have our first school closing, which of course now that we're going to be so well prepared probably won't come, right?
No snow at all next year.
Yeah, it'll be a dry year, dry winter. That's all I have for you, and if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to entertain them.
I just want to thank you for all the hard work you've done, you and your team. That's a lot that you put together here. And
In a
thank you.
short time.
Exciting.
Thank you. I'll pass that on to the team.
Yes, it's very
We're
exciting.
excited about it too.
All right.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, it's exciting to keep learning going, even on a 40 below degree day. So there might be some kids in the audience that are really excited about this, and some that might not be so much. That free day, snow day might be less in the future. So next up, we have our Director of Learning, Chad Schmidt, Dr. Chad Schmidt. He's going to highlight a $1 million grant that they were able to write for and secure called ADSYS, and I'll let him give all the color commentary, but it's a key component about what we have in place to support reading and math intervention for our students. So Dr. Schmidt, take it away.
Welcome, Dr. Schmidt, and thank you for giving up part of your evening for us.
Thank you. I'm just going to get things ready here. And great. So good evening, Chair Walker, board members, Superintendent Webb, and members of our community. It's my pleasure to be here to provide a brief update on some special funding that we receive and use in South St. Paul schools. This funding comes to us through what's called the ADSYS program. That's the Alternative Delivery of Specialized Instructional Services. And the purpose of that funding is to provide direct instruction and services to assist students who need additional academic or behavioral support so that they can be successful in the general education environment. This means additional time and additional support to provide it to students when they need it. The goal of ADSYS funding is to, by providing targeted intervention, we reduce inappropriate referrals to special education. The application and funding is on a 2-year cycle, and you can see it's done during the odd-numbered years. So our award this year was over $1 million, and that will be available to us for both the 1920 school year and the 2021 school year. And the funding comes to us through the special education funding formula, which means it's reimbursed at the rate of 50%. So general fund kicks in dollars, and then we're able to use this funding source to complete the package of that. The ADSYS work is part of a critical element of our multi-tiered systems of support that we've been working on implementing. And what you can see here on this slide is it is specifically focused on the evidence-based instructional interventions that will be targeted and intensive to students who need them in the areas of academics and behavior. So with that, I close my brief update on the ADSYS application and funding that we have coming into South St. Paul schools for the next 2 years. Are there any questions?
I would just like to point out to the public that there was an application process that resulted in a $1 million grant to the schools, and that should certainly be something that is noted, and thank you for making sure that got completed. So
Great. Yes.
Congratulations.
You're welcome. Good.
Thanks, Chad.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chad.
Thank you. So you get a taste of, 3 of our directors doing great work. And we have an incredible team. This is the best team that I've ever worked with. And they're all kind of quiet, kind of head down, focused people. So I just, in keeping with trying to elevate what the good work that we're doing behind the scenes to the community, we're going to be bringing more and more of our reports forward so we can see $1 million in grants. So that's on top of the additional $1 million. We got $500,000 just for safety and security at the secondary, $210,000 to help support teacher training district-wide and something called Innocent Classroom, and that'll be rolling forward for the next couple of years. We will continue to see partnership with our city and safe routes to school. We're partnering with the city so they can get millions of dollars for things like Concord Avenue and sidewalks and overpasses over 494 and the like. So, but we just got a $100,000 grant just about a month ago for that. So I know the board took a risk on things like communications director, and you get outstanding directors that are writing for additional grants like Connie and Chad and the like, and it's paying off for our community. So I just want to say thank you tonight. As far as going down the line for our superintendent updates, just first of all, just a quick update. We had our listening session conversation, but let me scroll through here and just follow the script. Just prior to this meeting, I'm glad that they're tagging out. It's been a long day for them. We had a staffing update. We are in continue to be in heavy hiring mode. We have most of our teachers hired. Now we're shifting into cooks and custodians and other positions, paras, as we get into August, and we're getting set for the start of the school year. But most of our teachers have now been hired. We discussed our finance, our OPEB. We'll talk about OPEB tonight, so I'll talk further in just a couple minutes about our finance update. You heard our anti-bullying system review update. We heard it loud and clear from our community survey and from our community. We need to turn and have a greater focus on anti-bullying systems. We are, and will continue to improve this coming school year and throughout the year. Flex learning, we're excited about the ability to be able to have a 40-degree below zero day and keep learning going. That should be our vision, and it is now, and we'll start the year in a good position there. ADSYS is the $1 million intervention grant that Chad highlighted. Again, that's on top of the additional $1 million. We've gotten $2 million in grants here for our school district. So on a $45 million budget, to have 2 additional $1 million is a huge thing. And then we discussed the school board meeting structure. We'll continue to discuss that as a board in the weeks and months ahead. We're having a great summer school program. One of the best pieces of good news, you heard Paul talk about Odysseyware, some online software that we're using with our middle and high school students. What's we're seeing happening is students clearing hurdles and actually getting additional credit. Sometimes 2 summer school classes knocked out of the water that might have been a block or a barrier for students, getting them positioned to start the year strong. So we're excited about that. Shout out to the gala. First of all, the Open Foundation Gala last week was a blast, and congrats to all the people that volunteered, donated their time for our activities and athletics support through the Open Foundation. Next month is the Ed Foundation. They're celebrating 35 years. I think they call it the Emerald Gala. So if you're able to attend, it's August 7th, 6 p.m. We'd love to see you there. Hopefully in your mailbox, you're able to open up the mailbox one of these days and get the 6 times update from our district. Lots of really good things happening with student leadership throughout. And please take a minute to look through that. There's too many dates about good things happening, but on our website if you want to read more and learn more about your school for your children. We're always at sspps.org. If you need any of our meeting materials and minutes, here's the tree to follow. And I think that's it. We'll go back to you, Chris.
Thank you, Dr. Webb. We'll move into the business portion of the meeting now. Start off with the consent items, which includes the financial claims and bills payable and the staffing. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Just to note that I'll be abstaining from this vote because I have a family member in the staffing portion of this, so I will not be voting on it. But all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? And the consent agenda is approved. Policy, there's nothing coming forward tonight, so we'll move on to the two real business items. What first is for the South St. Paul School Board to approve the investment policy statement for other post-employment benefits, which is the OPEB trust fund that Dr. Webb mentioned earlier. Do I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Or
I would just like to highlight the OPEB. Sometimes you get the acronyms here. We really want to highlight tonight that the board is recommending a more conservative stance with our district investments in the years ahead and having less in investments in equities and more in fixed assets. So I think it's a really good recommendation, and it again is dollars that are invested on behalf of the district to make sure that we're meeting all of our long-term retirement requirements. So.
Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay?
Nay.
Anyone else? All right, well, the motion does pass then. Next is for the South St. Paul School Board to approve the 2019-2020 substitute rates. Do I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
So I would just highlight two things. One is that we are competitive in our teacher sub rates, which is good news. So there's no recommendation to increase or change those tonight. But just as a reminder, we will be entering the process of teachers on call for our sub system, which will bring a greater pool of substitutes available for South St. Paul teachers when they need to call, or for a para to call for a sub. And so the greater pool will allow for, sometimes if we have 10 teachers out ill in a day, we might only have 9 subs that are available. And this will increase that pool and support for all of our teachers every day.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? And that motion is passed as well. That takes us to our informational items from the board members, and we'll start with Linda.
Nothing for me. We've been doing baseball all summer.
Fair enough, fair enough, thank you. And Jeff?
We got to do my favorite thing is the Composure Day Parade. And it was just wonderful. I don't think I've seen as many people at that
Right.
parade.
That's
And
a lot of
it's just my favorite thing to do. Thank everybody for coming out.
Cool.
All right, thank you. Nikki?
I'd like to piggyback on the bullying work that the district is doing. Peacemaker Minnesota is an organization that is working throughout our state on bullying and getting people into buildings and funds available for schools to work on bullying, to help kids work on conflict resolution and restorative practices. And a couple weeks ago, and I know I'm tooting my spouse's horn here, but a golf tournament was held and for Peacemaker Foundation to raise money. There were 44 golfers. They ended up putting into our South St. Paul Endowment Fund, which will go right to our schools, $7,500 through donations and through the golf tournament. And John worked himself to the bone on this, but it ended up being a very successful day. People had a blast. I imagine that they'll do it again next year, and I invite everyone to come out and golf and contribute to our endowment fund. So thank you.
Does Peacemaker match funds on that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. Well, thank you, Nikki. Bill?
Well, if anybody's around the Lincoln Center, they just tore the playground down and they have started to rebuild it. But try to get there this week because I think they're going to finish it this week. It looks great.
Very good, thank you. And Wendy, do you by chance have anything?
I, by chance, just happened to have a whole list. First off, I was fortunate, too, to attend the South St. Paul Open last week. Was honoring Vic Grabo and Jerry Gustafson, former teachers and coaches from South St. Paul. A fun event, and we thank them and their families for attending. Also, as a reminder, this weekend, I know I personally am really excited for this, it's the Addams Family Community Theatrical Production at the Secondary Building. Performances Thursday, Friday, Saturday evening, and a Sunday matinee. Get your tickets. It should be a lot of fun. I know there's 6 of us going Saturday night. It should be a lot of fun. Support our community theater, our students. It's a great chance to get into the building, too, if you haven't been in there for a while, to see the auditorium area. And as Dr. Webb had mentioned, the Education Foundation Gala is coming up in 2 weeks. And I want to put a shout out to Fury Motors again here in South St. Paul for donating a 2-year lease on a Jeep. It's a raffle. Tickets are $50 each, but if you're the lucky winner of that raffle, just think you get a brand new Jeep for 2 years. So that's something really exciting. Tickets are available through the foundation. I have them myself. You can contact any foundation board member if you're interested in purchasing a ticket or just attending the gala at Southview Country Club. Just a quick reminder, believe it or not, fall sports start in about 3 weeks, so if you need to get a physical, be sure you get that scheduled so that you can do that. And also coming up in 2 weeks, the South St. Paul Night to Unite, which will be Tuesday, August 6th. Several of us board members will be attending that event and visiting different block parties. It's reminded to families out there, organize a block party, get in contact with Deb Griffith here at City Hall. She can coordinate everything for you. If you have any questions, get to know your neighbors, your community, and you'll get a lot of visitors from different groups here in South St. Paul. I know the police and the fire department and us school board members and other city council and other city workers will be out visiting parties that night. And as we are talking fall sports already, believe it or not, just put a shout out to the South St. Paul homecoming football game. Will be Friday, September 27th. I know a lot of high school classes like to kind of gather up for that night for a different event, so put that on your calendar. I know our graduating class is planning an event because we are planning our next class reunion already. Excuse me. So that's Friday, September 27th. And also this Thursday, I will be volunteering at the Technology Maintenance Custodial Golf Tournament, which will be held on at Cannon Falls Golf Course. And this tournament provides funds for that group to provide scholarships to our graduating seniors. So if you're interested in golfing or would like to make a donation, silent auction type thing, please contact Glenn Bernstengel's office. Erica Ryan at the district office can take your call and make a donation or sign up if you'd like to golf. And several of us board members will be attending the Minnesota School Board Association Summer Conference, which is coming up August 4th and 5th. It's a great time for board members to interact with other board members from across the state. We get to attend different sessions, a lot of learning activities, so it's something that we are looking forward to coming up in another week and a half. And as we were talking earlier about getting the school year underway, I am the board rep to Intermediate District 917, and as we are all hiring at this time of year, 917 is actually holding an employment fair this Thursday at the Concord Education Center, which is located in the old Rainbow Foods Building in Inver Grove, out on Concord Street. So if you're interested in the summer employment, they are mostly looking for paraprofessional positions right now. You can attend that event or go under Teachers on Call, and you can fill out an application online for that also. They are hiring 40 people, so if you're interested in something like that, this is a great opportunity to get involved. And last but not least, this was on my front doorstep today. As most of you know, South St. Paul Secondary was very proud to have Jessica Davis as our Minnesota Teacher of the Year. Jessica teaches mathematics at the secondary building. And if you've had the opportunity to see or get this yet, the South St. Paul Voice little flyer that came out today features Jessica on the very front page of this newspaper. So if you get this, be sure and read it. Congratulate her if you see her. I know she's been really busy with different activities involved in this, and she was in our Composure Days parade representing us. That was great. And also, if you'll notice, on the bottom of this paper also is another article about South St. Paul schools, talking about some of the awards and the grants that we have won this year. I know Dr. Webb mentioned several of them earlier, but it's a great opportunity to read this and congratulate those who worked so hard on getting those grants for us. So if you get this South St. Paul Voice, be sure and read it and be proud of our staff and our students. Thank you.
Thanks.
Very good. Thank you, Wendy. We do not have a supplemental agenda this evening, so I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. Any seconds? Or do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. And any discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? And we are adjourned.